everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. This case is going to be about the McStay family. I'm sure some of you have heard about this case before. It was heavily in the media when it first happened. So there was a lot of coverage on this story. It's currently awaiting trial. So let's just get everything started. I'm gonna try to wrap this up really quickly and try to share as much information with you about this case as possible. Now take in mind that this case is pending trial, so there will be some information that we will be probably getting as the trial, proceeds and moves forward, but this is pretty much everything that has happened leading up to the trial. This is Joseph and Summer McStay and their two children, Gianni and Joseph Jr. Joseph was an entrepreneur. He owned his own business making custom water fountains, and these were very lavish water fountains. They were custom made, custom installed. He was doing very, very well for himself. Summer did have her real estate license, although as soon as they moved to California, she was pretty much just, a stay-at-home mom. They had just moved into a brand new home in Fallbrook, California in November of 2009. And not even 3 months of them moving into their brand new home, they go missing. Then on February 4th, 2010, just like any other day, Summer's just talking to her sister. Her sister had just had a new baby, so they were making plans to, get together and so she can meet her brand new nephew. Pretty much just making plans to see each other soon. Joseph went to work and he had some meetings planned for that day. He had a meeting in particular to meet with an employee later on that day for lunch. Joseph hired his own welder to install these fountains, and the guy named Chase Merritt, this guy was his business partner per se, slash kind of like the welder, the guy that did all the installations of the fountains. So this guy had a very, very crucial role in his business. So Joseph and Chase met at Chick-fil-A in Rancho Cucamonga, California, which is about an hour and something away from Fallbrook, California, which is where Joseph now resides. Chase Merritt would be the last person that day to ever see Joseph McStay. Chase did an interview and he says that he was pretty much the last person to see Joseph that day. He says he recalls calling Joseph multiple times throughout the day after their meeting. The last call that Joseph made to Chase was around 8:28 p.m. and according to Chase, he did not answer that phone call. At this time, they have released all of Joseph's phone calls and their record. There were actually 5 calls made to Chase after their meeting in consecutive order. 5 times though, back to back to back. Like what is the urgency? What is so urgent that you have to call somebody 5 times back to back to back? Now, it could have been anything. It could be anything that happened at the meeting, or it could be that they just got an order in and he's having to speak to Chase about this new installation. It could be several different things that he wanted to speak to Chase about. But Chase never called Joseph back, he says, until the next following day. He did try to make an attempt to call Joseph back and was not able to reach him. At around 7:47 p.m., a neighbor's surveillance footage captured what looked like to be the McStays family vehicle pulling out of the McStays driveway. Now, the McStays family vehicle was a 1996 Isuzu Trooper. This all happened on February 4th, 2010, which was a Thursday. Nobody had heard from them for 4 days. There were people trying to reach them. There were several attempts made to try to contact them and nobody could get a hold of any of the family members. On February 8th, 2010, police impounded the 1996 Isuzu Trooper located in a shopping mall near San Ysidro, Mexico border. Police later on realized that the Trooper belonged to the McStays, but there was nothing in the car that indicated or told police what could have happened. Saturday, February 13th, just 9 days after no contact with their family, nobody knows where they are, where they could have gone. Michael McStay, which is Joseph's brother, goes over to the residence and tries to just kind of see what's going on, you know, just to check in the house, check in on them to see if maybe they left something behind, like just to kind of, you know, just I guess for his own sanity, just to kind of see like what he can find that will maybe, you know, hint as to what happened or where they're at. So Michael McStay goes over to the residence and he pretty much walks around the house, you know, just to kind of check it out, and he finds an open window and he crawls in it and goes inside the house. Now Michael says that the house pretty much was undergoing renovations. I mean, they just had moved into this house, you know, they were renovating it, so there was paint everywhere, you know, things were boxed up, there were boxes everywhere, so there wasn't pretty much any way to kind of tell, you know, like, hey, something looks out of the ordinary here. I mean, this is a house that's undergoing renovation. He says he looked for like signs of break-in, a broken window, broken glass, anything like that to kind of indicate if there was anything that, you know, dangerous that happened. Once again, you know, he's just being a brother. He's just trying to make sure that he's covering all of his aspects, which I completely understand. The only thing though that was a little out of the ordinary were that the McStays had two dogs. There were two family dogs named Bear and Digger, and Summer was very close to these dogs. You know, she pretty much, they were her babies, that nobody was at the house, but the dogs were left outside. And there's absolutely no telling how long those dogs were left outside. He found that a little odd, but once again, I don't think he thought too much into it. Now, on Monday, February 15th, 11 days after the McStays had pretty much not been heard from, Michael went ahead and reported the family missing. Police were alerted and arrived immediately to the residence. Of course, they did their thorough sweep of the house just to kind of make sure that there was no foul play, that, you know, the intruder didn't come in, there wasn't a break-in, a forced entry, any broken glass, anybody hurt, anything that could, you know, be misleading. So police, once again, didn't really find anything out of the ordinary, except for the fact that there was an investigator that pointed out that there were like raw eggs left on the counter, and then 2 small bowls of popcorn were left on the couch, like positioned in a way like somebody was sitting there eating the popcorn. I mean, you know, there was still like crumbs and a little residue around where this person was sitting. So it definitely, to the investigator, it definitely looked like whoever was in the house at the time pretty much left in a hurry. That was a little strange as well. Now, once again, the investigators were pretty much not able to really see if like anything was missing out of the house, or like, you know, if anything was like a disarray, because like I said before, the house was undergoing renovations. So a lot of things going on in the house that, you know, they weren't really able to say, hey, yeah, it looks like this happened. It looks like the family just picked up and left. Back to the renovations, because this was very interesting to me when I was reading into this case, that they had hired a contractor to do the renovations of the house. He was supposed to come back that Friday, which was February 4th, but Summer ended up texting him and telling him to just come that Saturday instead, so that would put him at February 6th. So why would she plan for him to come on that Saturday when she knew they were gonna go out of town? Finally, police gained a warrant to search the McStays family computer. When they were searching in the computer, looking up all the search history and all that stuff, they found some very weird things. Things like, what do kids need to travel to Mexico? Do you need a passport to travel to Mexico? How to speak Spanish, learning Spanish programs, softwares, things of that nature were being searched on the family's computer. And this was days before they went missing. This starts leading the police to think that maybe the McStays did leave voluntarily, and maybe they did just pick up and leave to Mexico. Now, at this point, it's been nearly 3 weeks with nothing, no contact, no knowing where their family is. You know, I'm sure their moms and their dads and their brothers and sisters are all worried at this point. They have no contact with the family at all. The family does not believe at any time or any point that the family would just pick up and leave. That's definitely not like them. Several interviews that I've seen where Patrick McStay, is Joseph's dad, had, you know, they had a very, very, very close relationship, and Patrick actually spoke to Joseph on a daily basis, and pretty much Joseph, you know, was always talking to his dad and his mom and stuff, so they were always hearing from him. So it was very unlikely that it was a day that they didn't go, that they didn't, you know, hear from him. So it was very odd. They knew that it was definitely not like him to just run off to Mexico with his family. So why would he go to the extent of just taking his whole family there, just very abruptly, like not even letting anybody know? You know, usually when people make a trip, you can kind of tell your family, you kind of tell your friends, like, hey, you know, we got a trip coming up, you know, just letting you guys know, you know, we're gonna be here, you know, whatever, you know, just pretty much just letting you know, just in case, you know, God forbid anything happens, but you do want people to know where you are, you know. So it's very unlikely that their son just ran off to Mexico abruptly with his whole family and didn't tell anybody. So that was odd off the bat. They never believed that. Now, it's been nearly 3 weeks after the family's been missing. At this point, it's been speculated that, you know, the family has possibly ran in, you know, as possibly in Mexico. At that point, Interpol had been alerted, and Interpol released a worldwide poster in hopes that someone would come forth with information. And when police focused on, you know, video surveillance, like of Mexico's borders, there was footage of a family of 4. A couple and 2 small children, around the ages that Gianni and Joseph Jr. were, which were 3 and 4. So, you know, it's a family of 4. They pretty much look like, you know, they're the same kind of build, you know, the figures, then kind of, you know, they kind of match the descriptions of Joseph, Summer, Gianni, and Joseph Jr. And this footage was captured on the same day that the family vehicle was impounded from that shopping mall. So this was on February 8th. And this was a couple hours, maybe like an hour or 2 after the vehicle had been impounded. Summer was described to be very, very, very protective of her kids. I mean, you know, she had 2 young kids. They're 3 and 4. They're toddlers, they're little babies. Why would a woman that is very protective over her kids, I mean, she's a mama bear. I mean, I'm a mom too, so I can totally relate that. Why would she purposely take her kids at night, mind you, this was like around 7 or 8 at night, into Mexico's borders? Like, why would you go into a whole nother country at like 7 at night? You know, when usually kids are going around sleep, you know, it's just really weird. Her friends and people that know her say the same thing, that that's just not like her. She was a very protective mother, and she would definitely not just take her kids randomly at night, in the middle of the night, just for a drive into Mexico. It's just not, doesn't sound like her at all. Didn't make any sense for her to do that unless they were running from something or someone. Now, after the footage is reviewed by police, they desperately tried to get the, you know, other side, try to get footage on the Mexico borders side, surveillance side, but unfortunately there is no camera pointing to going into Mexico, just pretty much the border, you know, crossing the border part. Although the sheriff strongly believed that that could have been the family. And when the footage came out, a lot of people had hope, you know, that damn, maybe they really did go to Mexico, you know, maybe they really just, you know, tried to leave and start over. The police were convinced that, yeah, maybe that is them, you know, it does fit the criteria. It's just not really, it's really hard to go off of. Joseph McStay had a valid passport, but it had not been used in several years. But Summer's passport was expired. Police had no records of her ever applying for a new one, and both their children did not have a passport either. Police also found birth certificates at their residence. Now, in order for you to go into Mexico, you don't really need much, but if you want to come back into the US, you do have to have a passport, and any minor does have to have at least a birth certificate if they don't have a passport. It certainly looked like if the McStays did in fact voluntarily go to Mexico, they had no intentions of coming back. The police went as far as to check if they maybe were in the witness protection program, but they found no luck, nothing of the sort, no names popping up that maybe they were under a witness protection program, nothing that would insinuate that that was an option or that was the case. Joseph's mother is 100% sure that if her son was in danger of any sort, she would have known about it. Joseph would have told her. Now get this, the McStay family had $100,000 in their checking account just sitting there. If someone's running away or going to start a new life, you do need funds, you need money. You need money to make it for an extended period of time. So 9 times out of 10, if somebody's on the run, they're going to probably wipe out their bank account, take everything with them, and have it with you. So that was another red flag, that there was $100,000 just sitting in their checking account, untouched, not moved, and there was no activity, no credit card usage, no withdrawals, no ATM balance inquiries, nothing. It was just there. The money was just sitting there. Months and months go by. All the family can do is just, you know, keep their names in the media and keep this story surfacing just to kind of get awareness out there. You know, the family passed out flyers around the Mexico border, you know, just in hopes that somebody would recognize them and would come forth with any type of information. Now, the case pretty much goes cold for a while, and then something major happens. So fast forward to November 11th, 2013. A motorcyclist uncovered 2 shallow graves containing the remains of 4 people in the Mojave Desert just outside of Victorville, northeast of Los Angeles. 2 days later, the remains are positively identified as Joseph and Summer McStay and Gianni and Joseph Jr. They're 2 small children. Their deaths were ruled a homicide immediately, and the cause of death was blunt force trauma. Pretty much the autopsies confirmed that the family had pretty much been beaten to death, and the weapon was a sledgehammer. And it was actually, the weapon was actually found in one of the shallow graves along with one of the bodies. Once again, oh my God, I just can't wrap my head around how you can do that to people, like a whole family. And these 2 small babies, they are so small, and just to have to go through this, it just, oh my God, it gives me chills just thinking about it. But investigators also believe that the family was tortured before being killed. So as if it wasn't bad enough, they have to go through this all over again. So once again, it's not very easy news to swallow. Now, updates on the case so far. It has actually been set to January 9th of this upcoming year. And I actually read also that the defense is pointing to another possible suspect, a guy by the name of Daniel Kavanaugh. And he's actually another business partner of Joseph McStay. So apparently investigators have read some pretty heated exchanges between Joseph and Daniel Kavanaugh on Joseph's computer. So that is something that I guess we will have to stay tuned and find out on these updates. Now let's get into the theories. So of course, the first pretty much main theory is that the McStay family left on their own accord. They voluntarily left to Mexico. People also think that Joseph's business was a big cover-up for a drug trafficking cartel type of thing, that maybe they were, you know, involved with Mexican cartel, or maybe Joseph didn't know about it. I do that one kind of, you know, is up in my mind too, though, although I haven't really heard anything about surrounding anything about drugs at this point. They really haven't found anything that would insinuate that this was like a drug operation. I think at this point that is one that I'm gonna rule out, just because I feel like, okay, they have a suspect. So, but anyway, we'll get into what I think in a minute. Another theory is Summer's ex-boyfriend, Vic Johansson. Vic Johansson is Summer's ex-boyfriend, and Summer met Joseph while she was still with Vic, who also has a history of very violent behavior. Vic remained in contact with Summer even after their breakup, even several years after she had her firstborn with Joseph, and you know, for her birthdays and things like that, he would still every now and then email her and just kind of check in, just making sure that, you know, I guess, I don't know, just checking on her and, you know, kind of just trying to see, I guess, if they could rekindle something. But anyway, he was just, you know, a little obsessed with her, and would eventually, you know, periodically after she had a whole nother life, would still kind of check in on her and stuff like that. He called her his soulmate, and that he's the one that was gonna bear his children and nobody else was gonna bear his children. It was crazy. The possibility that his jealous ways could have drove him to eventually kill, you know, Joseph out of anger, and maybe Summer and his kids. I don't, but his jealous ways drove him to kill the entire family. Possibly, but the only thing with that is that he actually had an alibi for where he was the day, or those days that, you know, the McStays went missing. As it turns out, Vic was moving from Big Bear Lake to San Clemente, and by the time the McStays went missing, so his alibi pretty much checked out. The next theory is that the family was having some financial trouble and fled to Mexico to start a new life. I find that one a little odd, just because of the leaving all the money in, you know, leaving $100,000 in your bank account. It just doesn't make sense for someone to go to another country with a family to start a new life with absolutely no money. Not saying that they didn't have any money, because we don't know that, but $100,000 to just be sitting in your bank account when you're trying to start, you know, pick up and start again, it's just not, it doesn't logically make any sense that somebody would just leave money sitting there. Now I could understand if maybe they didn't want to trace it back to them and they didn't want to use their credit card or debit cards and stuff. That I completely get, but there is nothing or any activity showing that even a large amount of money was trying to be withdrawn at any point. So that is a big no. Doubt it. Don't think that that is going to be the issue in this case. And then of course, you know, the theory that makes the most sense is the actual arrest that was made. So, you know, going back to Chase Merritt, he is the main suspect right now. Chase Merritt was stealing from Joseph. You know, at the count of, Joseph was already giving this man money. He had already loaned him about $30,000 approximately. And, you know, days after Joseph and his family were killed and missing, he's writing himself checks from Joseph's QuickBooks account totaling up to like $21,000. The meeting between Joseph and Chase could have been about anything. They could have discussed the money that Chase owed him. They could have discussed, you know, him firing Chase due to, you know, bad jobs or bad work. For all we know, Joseph could have confronted Chase about something, anything, and then Chase, you know, got upset and killed the family. He certainly had motive to kill Joseph, but why? That is the question. Why? What is the actual behind it. There's a lot of things that could have happened at this meeting that we will never know, because there's only one person that it will come from, and that's from Chase. So many things in this case that I'm really anxious to see what comes out of it. Like, what exactly happens? What is the reason that he did this? Did he do it, or did he have somebody else do it? Did he set the family up? You know, he could have used the family or pawned the family off as an exchange to pay off his debt. I mean, there's things like that do happen. There's just so many things that, you know, I believe could have happened. But I do feel that there's so much more to this case, that there's so many more things that will pop up or that will come out after this trial starts in January. I'm super curious to see like what Chase, like what his little, you know, tell, or his little alibi is, or tell all about what happened those days and what happened that night of February 4th. Like, what happened? I personally do not believe that it was just a simple employee boss dispute over money that was owed. I just don't believe that at all. I think there was something a little more in depth, a little more personal that had been happening. You know, a lot of, you know, shady business definitely was going on, and Joseph was either knew about it or was catching on to it and was pretty much, you know, ready to do something about it, and Chase had to react. So, you know, at the end of the day, my heart really goes out to the McStay family and their friends, their families, their loved ones, their moms, their dads, their sisters, everybody that is impacted by the death of this family. It's just absolutely horrible what happened to them. There is no sugarcoating that. It's just horrible what happened to them, and it was just unjust. And if this was all over money or just greed and just, oh God, it sickens me to my stomach to just know that, you know, that could four people lost their lives due to somebody else's greed. But I pray that this family gets justice that they do rightfully deserve, and that at least their friends and family are brought some type of peace or closure with this trial, you know, however it goes. But I do pray for the family, and I hope that everybody gets some type of closure and peace and resolution, but mainly justice. Justice for this family is what we want. And I just really hope that we really, you know, they really get to the bottom of everything, and, you know, that everything just comes out to the light. Everything comes out to the light. So, but anyway, that is all for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope that you enjoyed all this information. I will definitely make sure to keep you guys updated as this trial starts and goes on and proceeds. I'll definitely keep you guys updated with, you know, updating the description box and providing links and things like that, some more articles and information that maybe you guys could read and just, you know, research yourself. But please let me know what your theories are and what you guys think really happened. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And as always, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Bye.